The assignment Kyle never thought his next job would take him this far from Earth. The planet was called Ilara 6, a quiet farming world at the edge of human space. It wasn't on most maps. When Kyle asked about the mission, the company only told him, "So you'll be taking care of valuable alien species, biological duty, high pay, no questions." That should have been a red flag. But Kyle needed the money, so he signed the contract. He arrived at the colony in the middle of a quiet night. The shuttle dropped him near a massive biodome, hidden inside a forest of glowing purple trees. A female guard with green eyes scanned him quickly, then said, coldly, "Follow me. Don't touch anything unless you're told." Kyle followed her through long, white hallways. Everything smelled too clean, like bleach and medicine. His boots echoed as he walked. The guard stopped near a large metal door. "You go in, Dr. Yelrin is waiting." The door slid open with a hiss. Inside, the room looked like a high-tech medical lab, but it felt wrong. It was too warm. The lights were soft and pink. In the center stood a tall, blue-skinned alien man with sharp cheekbones and white hair. His eyes glowed. "You're Kyle?" the alien asked. "Yes, sir," Kyle replied. "I am Dr. Yelrin. From now on, you report only to me. No messages, no contact outside. This is a controlled biozone." Kyle nodded slowly. "What exactly is the job?" Dr. Yelrin walked over to a display screen. With one tap, it showed a group of alien girls sitting on cushioned beds inside another room. They looked exhausted, some curled up in pain, others breathing heavily. All of them were beautiful in strange ways, skin colors like silver, gold, and violet. "These females belong to the species called Delari," the doctor said. "They produce life milk as part of their biology, but since the fall of their homeworld, the process has become unstable." "Unstable?" Kyle repeated. "The milk builds up rapidly. If not extracted, it causes extreme pain and even death. Our machines fail to help. Their bodies reject cold metal. We need a natural solution." Kyle blinked. "You mean me?" Dr. Yelrin smiled. "You are human, compatible, gentle by nature. We need a caretaker with soft hands. You will assist with daily extraction." Kyle's mind spun. "Wait, you want me to milk them?" "Exactly." Kyle's heart raced. This was insane. He was an engineer, not a farmer. Not a whatever this was. But Dr. Yelrin handed him a small device. It looked like a translator. "You will learn their language quickly. Their leader's name is Vela. She will guide you. Do not make them uncomfortable. You are here to help." Kyle wanted to refuse, but then he remembered the pay. Enough to wipe out all his debts. Enough to give his little sister back on Earth a better life. He swallowed hard. "When do I start?" The doctor gestured to the next room. "Now." The door slid open. The warmth hit him like a soft wave. The room was dim, filled with pink and golden light. The air smelled sweet like honey and flowers. The girls turned to look at him. Vela stood slowly. She was tall, with long, silvery hair that sparkled under the light. Her skin shimmered like water. Her eyes, deep and glowing, watched him carefully. She spoke in a soft voice. The translator buzzed. "You are the helper?" Kyle nodded. "Yes, my name is Kyle." Vela stepped closer. "You are not like the others. Your hands, they are alive. Not metal." She looked at the others, then back at him. "Will you hurt us?" Kyle shook his head. "Never. I only want to help." Vela stared at him for a long time. Then, finally, she gave a tiny nod. "Then come. We begin now." Kyle followed her to a soft seat. Another girl handed him warm cloths and a bowl made of crystal. His hands trembled. "I don't know what I'm doing," he whispered. Vela gently touched his wrist. "Just listen to us. We will teach." She sat down slowly, pulling aside part of her flowing robe. Kyle's eyes widened, but he looked away. Vela laughed softly. "You must look. You cannot help with closed eyes." Kyle took a deep breath and began. By the time he finished the first session, sweat dripped from his forehead. Vela looked peaceful now, her breathing calm. The bowl beside him was full of glowing white liquid. She reached out and touched his chest. "You're different," she said quietly. Before he could answer, the translator device buzzed and recorded a new word. Bonding. Started. Kyle didn't know what that meant, but he would find out soon. The first session, Kyle couldn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about what had happened in the biodome, about the look in Vela's eyes, about her soft voice when she said, "You're different," and especially about that last word the translator picked up, bonding, or started. What did it mean? He had only followed the instructions. He had only done what he was told. But something about it felt personal. Very personal. Next morning, Kyle stepped into the biodome again. This time there was no guard waiting. The hallway lights dimmed as he walked in alone. The door to the alien chamber opened slowly with a hiss. Inside, it was quiet. Too quiet. The girls were awake, but none of them spoke. Some sat curled in their beds. One girl, blue-skinned and tiny, held her arms around her chest, breathing fast. Another one leaned against the wall, sweat on her forehead, lips pale. Only Vela stood straight. Waiting. "You came back," she said, her voice steady. Kyle nodded. "Of course." She tilted her head. "Most males don't return after the first bond. It scares them." Kyle frowned. "Why?" Vela walked up to him slowly, her silvery hair flowing like water. "Because our milk carries memory, feeling, connection. When you took from me, you took a part of my mind." Kyle's mouth went dry. "I didn't mean to." Vela raised a hand. "It's not bad. It's the way we survive. The only way we stay whole. But now you must know, this is not just about the body. This is about trust." Kyle looked around the room. The other girls were suffering. He could see it now. They weren't just beautiful creatures locked in luxury. They were prisoners of their own biology, always producing, always aching, always waiting. And now, for the first time, they had hope. "You don't have to be afraid of me," Kyle said. A soft voice behind him replied, "We're not afraid of you. We're afraid of what we might feel." He turned and saw the blue-skinned girl from before. She was thin, delicate, and her hands trembled. "My name is Neri," she whispered. "Will you help me next?" Kyle looked at Vela. She nodded slowly. "She's ready." Kyle washed his hands, used the warm cloths, and sat beside Neri. She was shaking. He tried to calm her. "You don't have to do this if you're not ready." But Neri gave him a small smile. "If I don't, it will hurt. Worse. And I trust you." She took his hands and placed them gently on herself. Kyle began. This time it was different. Neri's milk didn't glow like Vela's. It shimmered with tiny blue lights like stars in water. And as he worked, the translator buzzed again, slowly picking up her thoughts. "He is warm. His hands are kind. Not like the ones before." Kyle felt a strange pull in his chest. Not desire, not confusion, but connection. Real connection. When the session ended, Neri was breathing easy. Her skin looked brighter, her trembling stopped. She touched his cheek. "Thank you. You took the pain away." Kyle stood holding the bowl of shimmering milk. He walked to the edge of the room where Dr. Yelrin waited silently. "You've done well," the doctor said, examining the liquid. "Her levels are stable again." Kyle stared at him. "Why didn't you tell me their milk carries emotions? Memories?" Dr. Yelrin didn't answer at first. Then he said, "Because you wouldn't have agreed." Kyle clenched his fists. "They're not machines, they're people." Yelrin looked up. "That's exactly why we need a human. The bond makes them stronger, healthier. You're not just a helper now, Kyle. You're part of the cycle." That night, Kyle sat alone in his quarters, thinking. Vela's words echoed in his mind. You took a part of my mind. Neri's smile. Your hands are kind. He checked the translator log. New words had been added. Comfort. Safe. He belongs. He leaned back against the wall, heart pounding. This wasn't a job anymore. It was becoming something much more serious. And he didn't know if he was ready, but he couldn't walk away. Secrets in the milk. Kyle didn't know why he kept the bowl. He was supposed to hand over every drop to Dr. Yelrin. That was the rule. But that day, after helping the third girl, Sayala, a golden-skinned Delari, Kyle poured some of her glowing milk into a sealed sample tube and tucked it into his jacket pocket. He told himself it was just curiosity. He needed to understand what was really happening here. But deep down, he already knew something was not normal. Later that night, Kyle sat at his small desk in the sleeping quarters. The sample tube glowed faintly in the dark. It was warm, almost alive. He pulled out his old engineering scanner and ran a basic scan. The screen flashed red for a second, then showed a strange reading. Unknown energy type detected. Liquid holds. Electromagnetic field. Kyle frowned. That's impossible. Milk isn't supposed to carry energy. He scanned again, using a different mode. This time the scanner picked up genetic code. Not just Delari DNA, but something else mixed inside. Human DNA fragments detected. Kyle's heart stopped. What the hell is going on here? The next morning, Kyle entered the biodome and found the girls waiting for him, but something was different. They were quieter. Watching him closely, Vela stepped forward. You took a sample, she said softly. Kyle froze. How do you... I felt it, she said. When you broke the flow, when you disconnected early. She didn't sound angry, but her eyes were filled with something else. Fear. You must be careful, she said. They are watching everything. Kyle sat down beside her. Why didn't you tell me our DNA is mixing? That human cells are inside your milk? Vela looked away. Because we didn't know until you came. Kyle's mind raced. You mean it only started after I arrived? Vela nodded. Your touch, your bond, it's doing something new. Something even the elders never saw before. Later, Kyle sneaked into the research wing of the colony lab. Dr. Yelrin wasn't there. He used his keycard to open the secured terminal. The screen blinked to life and files poured across the display. Project Delmere, hybrid advancement trials, milking logs, human match deficiency. He opened one. Lines and lines of data. Subject Naruto 12. Human contact increased emotional stability by 89%. Subject Baruro 6. Human genetic markers detected. Post-session subject, Baruro 4. Milk-powered reactor core. For 48 hours. Non-stop. Kyle stepped back, stunned. They weren't just caring for the girls, they were using them. Their milk was more than nourishment, it was fuel, it was a genetic experiment, and he was part of it. Suddenly the lights flickered. Kyle. Dr. Yelrin stood at the door. The look on his face was calm, but his eyes were cold. You've been digging, Yelrin said. Kyle swallowed. I had a right to know. Yelrin stepped closer. You think this is some romance story? That you're here to save them? No, Kyle. You're here because your biology fits the Delari template. You're just a tool. Kyle clenched his jaw. They're not tools. Yelrin tilted his head. And what happens when the bond deepens? When you can't leave? When they can't live without you? Kyle didn't answer. Because he had already started to feel it, and he knew. So had they. Back in the biodome, Kyle sat with Neri again. She touched his hand gently. You found the truth, didn't you? Kyle nodded. They're using you. Your milk. It's powering their systems. Maybe even more. Neri looked tired. We always knew something was wrong. But we were too weak to fight. Until you came. Vela walked over and sat beside them. We don't want to be weapons, she said. We want to be free. Kyle looked at them. These alien girls who were more than just beautiful. They were survivors. They were living batteries. And now they were evolving, changing because of him. He stood. Then I'll help you, he said. Not just with the milk, but with escape. Just as he said that, the lights in the biodome shut off. A voice echoed from the ceiling. Unauthorized scan detected. Human subject. Kyle is no longer approved for unsupervised contact. Metal shutters slammed down. The doors locked. Kyle turned. To Vela and Neri. We don't have much time. Vela's voice was calm. Then we make a choice. Together. The breeding program. Kyle sat against the wall of the locked biodome, heart pounding. Metal shutters sealed every exit. Red lights flashed slowly across the ceiling. The only sound was the quiet breathing of the alien girls around him. No guards came, no scientists. Just silence. Vela sat beside him, her long legs folded, eyes fixed on the wall. She hadn't spoken for several minutes. Finally, she said, "Now you know." Kyle looked at her. "Know what?" She turned to him. Her silver eyes were glowing in the red light. "That you were never brought here to help us. You were brought here to change us." Before Kyle could respond, the floor panel next to them hissed and slid open. A soft voice called out, "Follow me." It was Sayela, the golden-skinned girl. She stood near a hidden tunnel that none of them had ever seen before. Vela stood. "It's the old corridor, from before the dome was locked." Kyle helped Neri to her feet, and the three of them followed, Sayela into the darkness. The tunnel was narrow and lit only by pale green lights. At the end was a door, rusted, ancient. Sayela opened it. Inside was a room filled with machines, glowing tanks, and dozens of files. A secret lab. "What is this place?" Kyle asked. Vela stepped forward. "This is where it started. Where they made us." Kyle looked around. Each glowing tank had a name tag. Subject, Delary 2X status, terminated reason, incomplete bonding, with human. He opened a file on a nearby console. Breeding Phase 1. Report note, human males show increased bonding success. Female subjects produce higher milk levels post-contact. Some display emotional dependency, monitor carefully. If pregnancy occurs, proceed with Phase 2 hybrid trial. Kyle stared at the words, unable to believe what he was reading. "You're not just caretaking," he whispered. "They were testing if humans could impregnate you?" Vela nodded slowly. "They want something stronger than us, stronger than you, a child with both." Sayela sat on the floor hugging her knees. "I lost 2 sisters," she said quietly. "They pushed too far, forced bonds too soon. They couldn't handle it." Kyle felt sick. He had been part of this. Not knowing, but still a part. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he asked. Vela answered without looking at him. "Because we were afraid. We needed someone strong enough to stay. Most men, aliens or humans, run away when they learn the truth." Kyle stepped closer. "And you think I won't?" She turned, finally meeting his eyes. "I hope you won't." They stayed hidden in the lab for hours. Kyle couldn't stop reading the files. They described every session he had done, every emotional reaction, every drop of milk analyzed. And worst of all, his name was listed under potential breeder class A. They had selected him from the start, not for kindness, not for care, but because his genes matched the optimal result. Suddenly, the door above slammed open. Voices echoed. Guards. Yelrin's voice shouted, "Find them! I want the human alive!" Vela grabbed Kyle's hand. "We can't run anymore. We need to fight." Kyle looked at her in shock. "Fight? With what?" Sayela pressed something into his hand. It was a vial filled with milk. But this milk glowed a dangerous, pulsing red. "What is this?" Kyle asked. Vela answered. "The result of full bonding. It's not just energy anymore. Its power. Kyle's hand trembled. What happens if I drink it? Vela leaned close. Then we become more than what they made us. As the guards burst into the lower lab, Kyle stood tall, holding the vial. The alien girls gathered behind him, Neri, Sayela, Vela, and others. He had come to Ilara 6 as a helper, but now they were family, and he would not let them be used again. The uprising. The guards came in fast, 3 at once in black armor with pulse rifles raised. Kyle didn't think. He uncorked the vial and drank. The red milk was warm. It burned down his throat like fire, but then something happened. His heartbeat slowed, his vision sharpened. He could feel every breath in the room, every footstep, every vibration on the floor. He wasn't human anymore, not fully. Get down, Sayla shouted as the first guard opened fire. Kyle stepped in front of the girls, expecting pain. But the pulse shot hit his chest and fizzled out. No wound, no blood, just a light shimmer across his skin. The guard stared. What the? Kyle moved before the man could finish his sentence. One punch sent the soldier flying across the room. The other 2 backed away, confused. He's not just a caretaker. He's been modified. Vela stepped forward now, her voice echoing across the lab. No, he's bonded. The alien girls moved like a wave behind her, their bodies still fragile, but their eyes were filled with fire now. Each one stepped into place behind Kyle. They had no weapons, but they had something better. Unity. Trust. A reason to fight. Kyle looked at them. We're not running anymore. We take the biodome, we free everyone. Agreed? Vela gave a sharp nod. Agreed. The hallways of the facility became a battlefield. The girls moved through the corridors, guiding Kyle through back paths only they knew. Neri dropped sleeping gas pellets stolen from the medical rooms. Sayela overloaded the security grid, disabling the automated turrets. And Kyle, he fought like someone born for it. His body was faster, stronger, and sharper than he ever imagined. The red milk had changed him. Every time he touched one of the girls, the power surged, stronger with each connection. They reached the main dome. Dozens of Dalari girls, still trapped, waited inside. They had been too weak, too afraid to rise. Now, they saw something different. They saw Vela standing beside the human. They saw guards defeated. They saw hope, and they stood up, one by one. Suddenly, the intercom crackled. Dr. Yelrin's voice echoed across the speakers. You're making a mistake, Kyle. These girls are dangerous. Their biology is unstable. They'll break you, use you, just like they've done to others. Kyle stepped to the center of the dome, looked into the nearest security camera, and spoke clearly. They didn't use me. They trusted me. You used all of us. He smashed the camera with his fist. The uprising had begun. The final battle happened near the core of the facility. Yelrin arrived in an exosuit, powered by stolen milk energy. It glowed purple and white, unstable, buzzing with raw force. You're just a human, Kyle, he shouted. This was never meant for you. Kyle stepped forward, energy humming under his skin. Then you shouldn't have picked me. They clashed. Steel versus flesh. Machine versus heart. But in the end, the machine couldn't match the bond of trust and love. Vela screamed as Kyle took the final blow to protect her. The girls rushed forward, touching him, offering their strength, and, in a burst of glowing light, Yelrin's suit exploded and the facility's power core shut down. Silence. Smoke. Then, light. The girls gathered around Kyle. He was breathing. Alive. Barely. Vela cradled his head. You did it, she whispered. Kyle smiled weakly. We did it. By morning, the facility was theirs. The guards were gone, the data files destroyed. The breeding program ended, and the alien girls, they were no longer prisoners, they were survivors. They were free. Torn between worlds, the sun rose slowly over Ilara 6. For the first time, the biodome was quiet. Not the silence of fear, but the silence that comes after victory. The guards were gone. The power core was shut down. The alien girls walked freely, laughing softly, holding hands, helping each other stand. But Kyle sat alone. On the broken steps outside the facility, his body still ached from the fight with Yelrin. The red milk had changed him, but at a cost. His strength came in waves now, rising and crashing. He couldn't tell if he was healing or breaking. Vela joined him, sitting quietly by his side. For a while, they said nothing, just watched the strange twin moons of Alara 6 fade into daylight. Then Vela spoke. "There's a ship in orbit." Kyle turned. "What kind of ship?" "A human one." She handed him a cracked tablet screen. The message was short and sharp, from Central Colony Command to Civilian Operator Kyle Hart. "Your contract has been revoked. You are ordered to report to the shuttle pad for extraction. Do not engage with the alien specimens. You will be debriefed upon arrival. This is not a request." Kyle's stomach twisted. "They're pulling me out." Vela stared ahead. "They're afraid." "Of what?" She looked at him now. "Of what we've become. Of what you've become." Kyle stood up, pacing. "If I go, they'll erase everything. They'll shut this place down. They'll lock you away again. Or worse." Neri walked up holding a small metal case. "You can't go, Kyle," she said softly. "Not now. Not after all this." But Kyle shook his head. "If I stay, they'll send more than a ship. They'll send soldiers, real ones, bombs, fire. I don't want that war to come here." Vela nodded slowly. "Then maybe we don't run. Or fight." She opened the metal case Neri carried. Inside was something unexpected. A small, glowing orb, no bigger than a fist. "It's a beacon," Vela explained. "One of the first things Yelrin stole from our people. It can reach others, our kind across the stars." Kyle looked at it, unsure. "You have more like you?" "Thousands. Scattered. Hiding. Waiting." She placed it in his hand. "Activate this, and we're not alone anymore." Kyle stared at the orb. He had two paths now. 1. Get on the shuttle, follow orders, and pretend none of this ever happened. Or 2. Light the beacon, and bring in a future nobody could predict. But the choice wasn't just his anymore. It belonged to all of them. Hours later, the human shuttle descended. It was small, white and clean, sterile, like the people who sent it. Kyle stood alone at the pad, waiting. A voice crackled from the ship. "Kyle Hart, confirm presence." He didn't answer. The door opened. A woman in a military suit stepped out. Cold eyes, clipboard in hand. "You're lucky," she said. "You're being pulled before this mess becomes political. Get on board." Kyle looked over his shoulder. In the trees beyond the biodome, Vela stood with Neri, Sayela, and the others. Watching, waiting. He stepped toward the ramp. Slowly, then stopped, pulled the orb from his jacket. The officer frowned. "What's that?" Kyle pressed the center of the orb. It glowed bright, brighter than the sun. A pulse shot through the sky. The officer raised her gun. "What did you do?" Kyle looked her in the eye. "I made sure they're not alone anymore." Sirens exploded across the shuttle. The ship's systems began shutting down, emergency lights, scrambled signals, and then lights in the sky, dozens, no, hundreds of blinking signals above the clouds. The Delari were answering. Kyle turned back toward the biodome. The girls were running toward him, smiling, tears on their faces. He had chosen his world, and it wasn't Earth anymore. The new beginning, the skies above Alara 6 were no longer empty. They were filled with light. Ships of strange design hovered above the clouds, organic, glowing, shaped like wings and shells. The Delari had returned, not as soldiers, not as invaders, but as family. The beacon Kyle had activated was older than any human technology. It didn't send words, it sent emotion, pain, hope, freedom. And the Delary had answered. They came because they had felt it too. Down below, the biodome was reborn. The sterile labs were torn apart. The cages melted down. The floors scrubbed clean of numbers and files. What remained was warmth, soft lights, open air, laughter, and the smell of sweet flowers. Bela stood in the center of it all, her silver eyes glowing with purpose. The other girls moved freely now, wearing clothes of their own choosing. Their skin shimmered with health. Their hearts no longer carried fear. Kyle watched from a small balcony, leaning on the rail. His body was still weak, but it was healing. Something inside him had changed permanently. His blood, his bones, maybe even his soul. But he didn't regret any of it. Neri walked up and handed him a glass of fruit water. "Are you nervous?" she asked. Kyle smiled. "Terrified," she laughed. "Don't be. You earned this." He looked around at the new colony, the Delary ships above and the people rebuilding their lives below. "What if I mess it up?" he asked. Vela's voice answered from behind him. "Then we help you fix it." She stepped beside him, her long, silver hair blowing softly in the warm breeze. She looked different now, stronger, calmer, more radiant than ever. Kyle turned to her. "I still don't understand why you trusted me." Vela looked out toward the sky. "When you first touched me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years," she said. "Not power, not lust, just kindness, and that's what we were starving for." Kyle stayed quiet. Vela placed her hand on his chest. "And now, we're full again." Later that evening, a gathering was held under the stars. Delary from many ships arrived, their bodies shimmering in different colors, blue, pink, green, golden. Some looked ancient, some very young. But all of them looked at Kyle with curiosity and quiet respect. Vela stood before them and raised her voice. "This human came to us as a worker. He stayed as a friend. And he fought as our protector." She turned and looked at Kyle. "Now, he is something more." The Delary whispered to each other. Some reached out and touched him gently as they passed. A child gave him a glowing flower. A young girl placed her forehead to his chest, a sign of deep respect. That night, in the soft quiet of the dome, Vela and Kyle sat together by a fire. The stars above seemed brighter than usual. Kyle looked at her. "So what happens now?" Vela smiled. "Now we build." He raised an eyebrow. "A home?" She shook her head gently. "A future." Kyle looked down at her hand resting in his. It was smaller than his, glowing faintly, warm to the touch. For the first time in his life, he felt complete. Not because he had won something, not because he was needed, but because he belonged. Suddenly, Vela touched her stomach. Kyle noticed the way she froze, eyes wide. "Vela?" She looked up at him slowly, tears in her eyes, but smiling. "You gave me more than safety, Kyle. You gave me life." Kyle's breath caught. Not just a new colony, not just peace, but a child, half Delary, half human, a true beginning. In the distance, Delary ships lit the sky with soft glowing trails dancing through the night, and under those stars, Kyle held Vela close, not as a caretaker, not as an outsider, but as the first of something the universe had never seen before.